So you'll forgive me for being just a tiny bit partial towards our next keynote speaker. Thabile Ngwato is the co-founder and CEO of the Ngwato Nkosi Group, founders, of course, of Newsroom Africa Channel 405, fast becoming the most watched 24-hour news channel on the continent, more recently also finding Movie Room. Thabile is a dynamic entrepreneur. She has to be. This is a company that launched at the start of a national election and went live for 24 hours from then until now. She has a passion for broadcasting, and now she drives the vision behind Newsroom Africa. It's a 100% Black-owned, 50% women-owned 24-hour news channel. Ladies and gentlemen, Thabile Ngwato.
Did that was definitely given a few coins, so thank you for the shout out. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for the wonderful welcome, and to you, Michelle, thank you so much for it. But most importantly, thank you to the entire team that put this together. Manda, thank you very much for the invite. Now, this is an absolute honor for me. It's actually also very daunting for me to stand here today and speak to you about entrepreneurial excellence. While I don't proclaim to have the blueprint or the framework for the subject, it is something that I guess for the most part of my life, I have been passionate about. I have been very clear about what my trajectory would look like and what it would take to get there. Now, my career in broadcasting media in particular spanned just over a decade. And throughout that, I knew being an entrepreneur and getting into business was something that I was definitely going to transition to. I knew that to lead was a calling for me. It makes sense, right, that I'm at the Leadership Summit today. And when I met my business partner, the other half of Ngwato Nkosi Group, Thokozani Nkosi, all of my career considerations up until then came to a point of culmination because I had looked at the fact that, yes, I've been in broadcasting for as long as I possibly can, but I do want to transition into business. And what is the best way to transition than to transition into something that you know? And that is why I founded my business in the media and broadcasting sector. Now, having both, and both of us had experience in media and broadcasting. He was more on the general entertainment side, and I, of course, in news. We found common ground because we are born entrepreneurs. Over the last 5 years, we've had many ideas that didn't see the light of day. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I think I need tissue, and I know there's a major close-up here. I'm a TV person, forgive me. Thank heavens this is being recorded and we will cut that bit out. We'll pretend we went to an ad break or something like that. But I want to just go back to my journey and how we started Ngwato Nkosi Group, because the founding thoughts and the decisions that you make at the beginning really make all the difference when it comes to the growth of your business. And this is what we have seen. So us collaborating and seeing the need for collaborating was one of the things that brought us together. A lot of the time people think that, well, if I start a business on my own, I'll make all the profits on my own, right? Which is probably a given. However, sometimes, and a lot of the time, which is what I've found, is that it is better to collaborate. collaborate with people with a common vision, but most importantly, common values, because every time we either have a disagreement, because partnerships aren't easy, we always go back to why we started this, and that was to put our minds together and to collaborate. Now, Newsroom Africa, as you know, is our first venture that came to life, and now most recently, Movie Room, Channel 113. Now, this is a very exciting next step in our journey, one that we planned for a very long time, but naturally, as you know, with any business, you have to get your ducks in a row before you make your major announcements. Now, both channels are part of the Ngwato Group, which is the business that we actually founded in 2018, a little under a year before we launched Newsroom Africa. Now, for those who would like to learn a little bit more about the Ngwato Group, and more specifically, Newsroom Africa as well as Movie Room Channel 113, let's take a look at this. I think we had a Newsroom Africa video to play as well. I don't know if the tech team.
Pleasure to present to you.
It's no secret that the future of media is digital, and that's why we took a deliberate decision to put digital at the heart of our news channel. We are essentially disruptors rather than being disrupted, and that you can really quote us on, because that's what Newsroom Africa is essentially going to be. Standing here tonight on the brink of a new chapter in the face of the South African media landscape, a landscape colored by a rich history, a passionate people, and a tenacious spirit. And that was really big for us, because we really wanted to start at the highest level possible. And what's higher than the highest office in the country?
The president.
So we had to get that stamp of approval from the president of the country. We saw earlier this morning that he also sent us a birthday message. And it's really important for us to have that kind of support from everyone. Our viewers have been amazing. The great thing about social media is that you get feedback on the go. And we appreciate that feedback, because that's the reason why we are here, and that's the reason why we'll continue to do the excellent work that we've been able to do. After a successful launch in May 2019, as a business, we embarked on positioning Newsroom Africa as a competitive force in the local news broadcasting space. We have seen our viewership more than double, with our projections placing us in a solid position for the future. Our key focus of consistently setting ourselves apart with our unique approach to news reporting and content creation has seen us not only eat into the existing news-watching audience, but we have also attracted an entirely new viewer to news and current affairs, giving our stakeholders and partners, including advertisers, a bigger reach and a variety of demographics. As we celebrate 2 years since launch, we want to give a special mention to all the brands who have come along on this journey with us since inception. And we also welcome all our new and potential advertisers to what we can proudly say is a channel of the future operating in the present. The new Newsroom Africa headquarters and studios are the epitome of the growth trajectory of our business. In our second year of the business, we were able to acquire our own building and start a renovation journey, which has really culminated in us having the environment that we've always dreamed of, an environment that is conducive for excellence. What's next for Newsroom Africa is that we definitely want to continue building our brand right here at home in South Africa and also focusing on the rest of Africa. For more though, continue to tune into Newsroom Africa, channel 405. Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, it's been a tumultuous 4-year period for us, and this is only the beginning. My talk today is based on building these 2 channels from the ground up and what has set our trajectory apart. Now, in 4 points, I will define what it has taken for me to become who and what I am. My first point is titled The Power of the Pivot. Now, pivoting is often described with slight negative connotations. I think a lot of the time it's been given the illusion that if something doesn't work out for you, or if you fail in one aspect, you should be able to change course immediately into another direction without missing a beat. Now, in this instance, pivoting has meant remaining in one spot, and which for me has been broadcasting. I think I touched on this a little bit earlier on. And I've managed to swivel into different aspects of broadcasting. The first being news and current affairs, as you know, and then the second now being general entertainment with the introduction of our movie channel. Now, being anchored to a specific vocation with the aspirations of branching out into different areas of it has helped me to practice laser-sharp focus. In fact, American entrepreneur and author of The Lean Startup, Eric Rice, once said, "A pivot is a change in strategy without a change in vision." I want to say this again. A pivot is a change in strategy without a change in vision. Now, these words have proven true, especially for me as a leader in the broadcast space. A crystal clear vision is what allows for a pivot to be possible at all, in fact. Now, contrary to popular belief, and maybe some people may find this controversial, sometimes having multiple eggs in one basket can actually pay off. I'm an example of that. Now, the next part, and I think a lot of anyone who works with me or anyone who has worked with me, particularly in business, will know that I am greatly passionate about building lean teams and building lean businesses. And that's why my next section in particular is titled Lean is Mean. Now, for those who know a little bit about our business, you may think that this is contradictory, considering that we employ more than 400 people at this stage. But let me tell you how it works. Now, we began as a startup, and in many ways, despite our growth over time, the startup culture in our business still exists. This means that when I work on my projects in particular, I work with small task teams to execute those projects. Now, oftentimes, the bigger the project, the smaller the initial task team. I found this to be more effective, and in fact, maybe one day when I have time, I'll actually sit down and write a book about building successful, sustainable, lean businesses. But that's just a side note. Now, the lean model, also allows for agility. And in fact, a lot of our stakeholders, partners, and clients always applaud us for our agility. Yes, we're a business that is growing. However, we are very agile when it comes to making decisions, getting things off the ground, as you've been able to see as well. And in many instances, this has been a game changer in a dynamic environment like ours. Now, another thing about the lean is mean approach is that people often assume that this will result in the absence of the people first pillar in organizational culture. However, it's about having the right combination of people working towards a common vision. And in fact, the advantage for us is that we work amidst a core group of seasoned. I mean, you've seen Michelle, we've got our executive for marketing and sales, Amatlasela, here as well. So we are working with a core group of seasoned, experienced, also young and dynamic creative professionals. And this is definitely something that has been invaluable for us. And this particular model, lean is mean, is something I truly believe in. Now, I think there's no person who has reached any level of success, and I always say that success is relative. You know, what is success to me is different to what is success to another person, and that is because you know what your journey is, you know what your dreams and aspirations are, and you know what it is that you're trying to achieve. But for me, and that's the next session I'm going to go into, is that timing is everything. For my journey, timing has been everything. And this is a key factor that I want to touch on, particularly as I unpack what my entrepreneurial journey has been like in particular. Now, no matter how hard you plan or try to have something happen, nothing beats surrendering and allowing things to fall into exact alignment. In fact, Oprah Winfrey said it so perfectly when she said, "Don't hold anything too tightly. Just wish for it, want it, let it come from the intention of real truth for you, and then let it go. And if it's supposed to be yours, it will show up, and it won't show up until you stop holding it so tightly." For me, these are one of the quotes that I constantly look at when I'm questioning things, because like anything in life, not everything will work out as you've planned. Not every journey that you travel will be smooth. And that's why you sometimes have to take a step back, take a beat, take a pause, and ask yourself why it is that you've started and whether you are holding on to something way too tightly. Now, this particular quote and what I'm referring to around timing doesn't mean that there should be an absence of hard work. It just means being intentional in the letting go of an idea or a concept. Now, this is something, and maybe I'm saying a few things today that some people may not agree with, but I, as an entrepreneur and even as a leader, I sometimes feel like society often romanticizes overnight success, which has bred a culture of impatience and the shaming of hard work. I don't know how many times people assume when you work hard, it's either you're in a toxic work environment, or you're overworking yourself, or you're not being kind to yourself. But how is working towards my goals being unkind to myself? How is contributing to the environment that I have chosen to operate in being toxic? And I think a lot of the time we pick up these buzzwords and buzz phrases and we run with it as if it's actual fact. I don't know how else to work but to work hard. I actually can't vouch for anything else. Now, and we know that this entire aspect of romanticizing overnight success also is directly linked to the instant gratification brigade who don't believe in staying the course. And I can't reiterate this enough, that staying the course has been beneficial to me, and it's one of the reasons why I have been able to achieve the things that I have set out for myself. And I'm always clear to say the things that I have set out for myself because, once again, success is relative. Everybody knows what their goals, dreams, and aspirations are. And I think it's about you as an individual making a decision on which course you're going to stay. Now, if you want to know what has played a big role in my individual success, it's been consistently working hard so that when the time is right and the opportunities arise, I'm fully prepared to meet them head on. I'm going to say this one again. So what has contributed to my individual success has been consistently working hard so that when the timing is right and the opportunities arise, I am fully prepared to meet them head on. And boy, have I been prepared. A lot of the time, I think we question ourselves when we're on journeys. This thing of shaming hard work goes with also shaming people's career choices. I sometimes hear entrepreneurs saying, 9-to-5ers are so exhausting. They don't understand how hard it is to be an entrepreneur. I always say that I have the luxury of experiencing both of that because I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm also employed in my business as the CEO. So I definitely don't work 9-to-5, I work all the time. But what I'm saying is I'm still in an office. I still need to go to work. I still need to contribute. I've got KPIs. I have goals and objectives to achieve. I have a team that is relying on me. I have a fellow shareholder that is relying on me. And so when I'm wearing both hats, both a person who's leading the operations of the business, but also a shareholder, I need to make decisions every day that are beneficial for the business and ultimately the people in it, and that's 400 people and their families, right? And so that is a huge responsibility. And I think with the hard work, with the responsibility, comes all the effort that one needs to make to be able to make the right decision so that their business can strive. And I think for me, I have been deliberate about that. Intention is another thing that comes with being a leader. You need to be intentional. On a day-to-day basis, I wake up and I say, what is it that I'm trying to achieve today? What is it that is expected of me? How do I go over and above that to make sure that A, it is achieved, but also that the people around me are also able to be inspired to achieve whatever goals and objectives they have. And I think that's what I've been able to sort of step back and look at over, the past 2 years, because when we first started the business, we were sitting in the business as co-owners in the first year and a half of the business. And then my business partner and I decided to have one of us run the business and the other pursue other interests in our partnership. And it's been really great to be able to do that because when we were starting the business, yes, of course we have a shared vision. And we're quite clear about that. But it is important, once again, going back to my previous point, knowing when to let go. And we were quite intentional about that and saying, now the business is at a point where one of us, and we know each other's strengths, and that's a part of a business partnership, knowing who's the better one to run with the operations on a day-to-day, who can handle the running and walking as fast as you can and dealing and engaging and all of that. And in our instance, I became that person. But I think for anyone who's asking, is a partnership easy? No, I don't think there's any partnership that is easy. But it's about having, once again, common values and a common vision. It even comes with the teams that you have. I always say that it makes our lives so much easier in the hiring process when we identify people that have the same values as we have. Because that you can't buy. You can't buy ethics. You cannot buy honesty. You cannot buy optimism. You cannot buy any of those values that have brought us to where we are today. So we are always clear that in our hiring process, we look at all those elements. And hard work is, whether, some people may say, unfortunately or fortunately, is a part of that. Now, I want to get into this point, and this one for me is by far my favorite point because it epitomizes who I am, and that is black is bold. Now, the black is bold mindset, for me in particular, is about putting Africa on the global stage. An actual practical example of this is when Newsroom Africa broadcast exclusively from the Expo 2020 Dubai. Now, we were the only Africa channel partner, with CNN being the global partner. This in itself put us toe-to-toe with the best in the world. In fact, when we were working on the pitch for this channel, we would always look back at how CNN in particular started as a channel. So fast forward to 3 years later, we have an opportunity to stand with them side by side on the global stage, representing the African continent. Now, if someone were to ask me, in a nutshell, what are we doing as a business, of course? I would say we are building an African news and general entertainment platform of the future. In a nutshell, that's what I do for a living. So every day I figure out, how am I going to contribute towards building this African news and general entertainment platform of the future? I actually recently did an interview with an international platform that champions African brands. And something for me that actually reminded me about one of the reasons why I started the business is when the host did his intro, he described ownership in the broadcasting landscape, specifically the news space in particular, as not being diverse. In fact, young, black, and female are not the words used to describe these owners because there simply aren't any. Well, there simply weren't any before me. While this is not the most encouraging of sentiments, the thing that drives me is that despite being the first black woman to be a major player in this space, I will most certainly not be the last. That's why I wake up and do what I do every day. I'm doing it so that I can thrive and my business succeeds, so that other opportunities can be given to people who look like me. Someone asked me, what is my superpower? And I thought long and hard about what is my superpower. My superpower is so simple. My superpower is being African, and it's being black, and this is what it looks like. Thank you.
Oh, a photo. Bringing the help to take a photo as well. I'm not sure what he's asking us to do.